Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
We live in a time of unprecedented comfort. We value safety and security, and maybe that's why it's so easy for us to be shaken when the straight road we're on takes a sudden curve and seems to be pointing us in a direction we don't want to go. Welcome to the Shaken Podcast. I'm Steve Sunshine. Your confidence, your mood, your perspective, even your faith may be shaken because of something that's happened in your life. Jesus told us we'd have trouble in this world, so we're shaken but not surprised. He also said, "Take heart, I have overcome the world." In this podcast, you'll hear honest conversations with people who have or are going through life-altering hard times and have found that God was with them in the midst of it all. It's easy to take for granted that life will continue as it is, but that's far from guaranteed. My life, your life, can change in the blink of an eye. So you could call this episode "He Married My Cousin Part 2," because this is the second time a couple of episodes ago, I talked with Ibrahim, who married my cousin Elizabeth. Now it's Mike, who married my cousin Jamie. And I don't know that there are any others that are going to come up like this, but so I guess I'm promising not to make a habit out of featuring my own relatives. But Mike, how you doing? Thanks for joining me.
Excellent, thank you.
So your story has to do with something that, a lot of these stories are things that have happened over a long period of time. This was something that happened in a moment, right? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, it happened literally in a split second. On September the 15th of 2022, I left for work like I normally do. I jumped up, I got dressed, jumped on my motorcycle, and headed to work. It's a 63-mile commute to work. Mm-hmm. So I left the house around 4:40 in the morning, and roughly a mile later, a driver coming in the opposite direction crossed over two lanes and hit me head on.
Oh boy.
So that's as much as I know.
Yeah.
Any other details of the accident are all from eyewitnesses. I don't remember a thing. I don't remember even seeing a vehicle coming at me.
So what were the tell us about the extent of the injuries and what that caused to happen?
So upon impact, I was thrown approximately 60 feet and ended up against a stone wall. But the injuries were a traumatic brain injury to the back of my head, 4 vertebrae end fractures, end plate fractures. I had broken ribs. I had a lacerated spleen. I tore my colon and small intestine. My pelvis was fractured in multiple locations. I broke off my femur head on my left leg, and my left leg femur was shattered.
Is this a case where did anybody at any point say we're amazed that this guy is still alive? Was it because it sounds like it based on all those injuries?
Well, yeah, like when we got to when I was admitted to the hospital, taken to the hospital by the ambulance, they said I was aware the whole time. So I talked to the police officer on the scene and gave him Jamie's name and number. Reading the doctor's notes and the nurse's notes from the hospital, my initial notes were patient is aware. But later reading, what got me was the very next, I had an initial intake note from the hospital, but the very next note, they had a pastor come see me. Mm. So, to me, people go to the emergency room all the time. But not everybody gets a pastor sent to see them. So the extent of my injuries, I believe that I don't think they believe I was going to do very well.
So, what was the next experience that you were aware of? I mean, at some point you woke up and what was happening?
Yeah, roughly 2 to 3 days later is when I became aware. I woke up. I was intubated
Ugh.
and restrained. I guess prior to me becoming conscious, I guess Jamie had said that I was kind of pulling at things, like
Yeah.
the tube down my throat and things like that. So they restrained me. But my first moment aware was I woke up and I couldn't talk, of course, because I was intubated and restrained.
Did you immediately remember that there had been an accident, or was it more like, where am I?
It was more like I had no idea what happened. I have no recollection of anything
Huh.
up to that point, from September morning of September 15th up to that point, which was approximately, like I said, approximately 3 days later.
Wow. So what went through your mind?
Well, the first thing was that I couldn't talk, and Jamie was there and to keep me calm and talk to me, and just gave me a brief, like, this is what happened. You were in an accident.
Okay. And like emotionally, how did that, what were you feeling?
See, and that's the I don't know if it's amazing part to me was throughout that whole process. Of course, there were moments of emotion, but it was I remember just feeling calm.
Did you sense that was God's presence, or was it just a calm that's kind of hard to explain?
I mean, I mean, looking back, I know it was God's presence. Looking back and reading the different accounts, seconds after the accident, a woman that was 2 cars behind me stopped, stayed, and was praying with me. She stayed until she had to leave to make an airport flight. So God's hand was in all of this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, looking back, I know it was God's presence. But yeah, I mean, I woke up with all of these injuries, and I think I was unusually calm.
Yeah. How long were you in the hospital?
I was in the intensive care unit and the trauma, the different trauma floors for 15 days.
Wow.
The initial timeline that they gave Jamie was much longer than that. They had told her that I would be intubated for more than a week. And then they broke it down, but they had me in the hospital for more than a month before they even transferred me to rehab. But as it turned out, it ended up being 15 days.
Wow.
And then to rehab for another roughly 15.
You, it's a long list of injuries. And
Yes.
I mean, the first miracle of the story is that you survived. But I can only imagine that with everything that you sustained, that this is a marathon more than a sprint. And so what's the recovery been like?
I mean, there's been moments when it's been tough, like that first month. So I lost all use of my left leg during that time. Like I kept calling it my boat anchor. It would actually fall out of the hospital bed, and there was absolutely no way I could lift it up. So I have to call a nurse, have them come pick my leg up.
Yeah.
I had zero use of it for, well, it was much greater than a month. But that was tough, not being able to even roll over, nothing like that. It was, they have these cool things now, I guess if you want to call them cool, it's basically they put you in a sack and they pick you up with a little crane to move you. And that's how they would move me from the bed to the recliner or whichever. But I I was literally no help
Yeah.
during that time.
Yeah. And how did you like the crane thing?
I did. Mostly because it would, kind of cinches you up to a
Yeah.
point, and I had the broken ribs and everything else
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on, so it would just cause a great amount of discomfort.
Okay. And how are you doing now?
I'm doing pretty well. I still have lingering um, injuries, some that won't ever go away, and some I'm still working on strength and endurance and things like that. Um, like one of the things that won't ever go away is I have nerve damage on the outside of my left leg from my hip to my knee,
Mm.
which has atrophied the muscle, so which doesn't help with strength.
Yeah.
And then there's other issues at times, like I was resectioned, so I'm missing part of my colon. I'm missing more than 12 inches of small intestine.
Oh boy.
For 6 months I had a colostomy bag, and that was, they were at least able to reverse that, so I don't need to deal with that. But there's lingering side effects with that occasionally, as far as my intestinal tract.
How has the accident changed the way you live now?
I have to do things much different in many ways, as far as physical things. I'm not as sure on my feet because I'm not as strong. Um, just me picking something off the floor is difficult.
Yeah.
It's almost like I have to stop, think about it, and then do it. Or if I have to get down on the floor for anything, like I love working on cars, but me getting down on the garage floor is almost a joke
Yeah.
now. It's almost comical, how I have to get down and get back up. But yeah, I mean, I have pretty much taken it in stride. As far as it's just another challenge.
Do you feel like this has changed in any way, either positively or negatively, your relationship with God?
I mean, if anything, it's drawn me closer. I mean, even different trials in my life. I mean, it just seems like I always draw closer to Him in those times. And like I said, from seconds after the accident, we know God's been his hand, has had His hand in this, through that first woman that was praying with me, or different people that have come, just strangers that have come to the hospital. When I was in rehab, the night shift manager came in and introduced herself and handed us a poster. She's like, "Hey, hi, I'm from church. Our small group's praying for you. We all wanted to give you this." And it was just a poster of Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. But just, I'm sure I'm leaving things out, but it's just, I know God's hand has been in all of this.
The Holy Spirit motivates or leads some other believers to come and to provide comfort, and that's Him working through them. That's very powerful.
Yes.
If you knew somebody in a similar situation to yours, maybe where you were a year ago or whenever it was, during a time that would have been particularly challenging, and they're asking questions like, why did God allow this? Or I guess I'll just leave it there rather than throw too many things at you. What would you say to that person to encourage them to use this as a way to get closer to God rather than not?
Well, I mean, I've asked that same question to myself. Why? And through all of this, I mean, both my wife Jamie and I have felt that there's a bigger purpose to this trial, and that is, I mean, this is our. I mean, we've talked about our story to other people, but never in a format like this. But it's to help people through different trials, whatever they may be. But I would just encourage people to seek Him out. Don't don't shut yourself off because of what's happened. The other thing is having people around you to encourage you with God's word or other things.
I think the piece about not shutting him off is important. And we did an episode earlier with a guy who wrote a book about Job, about the book of Job. And, the book is, anybody who's read it knows it's challenging, it's mystifying, it might be frustrating at times. It poses as many questions as it answers, but it does show you that God allowed Job to come at him with his complaints. And he didn't give him the answers he wanted, but he also didn't say, "How dare you?" I think the important thing is that communication with him stays open, that you're still expressing what you feel and then and being honest with him. If you're leaning into God, he will lean back into you. I really think that's true.
I mean, absolutely. And as far as God's hand being in things, like the night before the accident was I had just started. That was my first night. I'm helping with a group of teen boys at school at church.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a leader. At the time they were 10th grade boys. Now they're in 11th grade. But that was my first night with them. Was the night before the accident, and the Holy Spirit led me to that decision to start doing that. It wasn't something I have ever wanted to do, but I did. I opened myself to that opportunity and started. And the very next morning, the accident.
What was that interaction like when you were able to see them again after all that time?
It was. I mean, my first time back was hard. I was still in a wheelchair, but we talked about the accident, and I talked to him about forgiveness, because I remember one of the first things after waking up and finding all the details of the accident was I forgave that driver. No matter what he was doing, they estimate he was either on his phone or sleeping.
Oh boy.
One of the two things. So, but I had to forgive him.
Yeah.
No matter what happened, I had to forgive him first. So we talked a great deal about that. With the group of boys.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. It's hard, but it frees you up. Keeps that way you're not kind of enslaved to the bitterness that could grow in somebody who doesn't forgive.
Yeah, and not forgiving and being bitter like that would not help me recover.
No.
You're focusing on that rather than what you need to focus on.
Was there you mentioned Philippians 4:13 that somebody wrote for you in a card. But were there any other scripture verses that you drew strength from in this?
I mean, I've always leaned on Isaiah. Those that wait upon the Lord will renew their strength. That's always been one of my favorite verses. So I mean, I thought about that often because I don't know why, but it's always stuck with me.
Have you changed in any way? Has this made you a different person?
In certain aspects of life, yeah. I mean, I was always driven hard to, as far as work went. Mm-hmm. Granted, in the last several years, I mean, that attitude changed for the better. But even to a more extent now, it's like, I know I have to go to work. I know I have to provide for my family. Mm-hmm. But I don't have that extra drive to say, okay, I'm gonna work extra hours to do something. We'll accomplish it when we'll get it done when we get it done. Yeah. The physical aspect has changed a lot of things. Yeah. I was always very, very active. I never shied away from anything physical. For those out there that know anything about CrossFit workouts, my favorite workout was the Murph. It's a mile. It's 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and another mile. That was my favorite workout.
Yeah.
I mean, since the accident, I haven't been able to do a pull-up. I'm hoping to get back there, but that has changed a lot as far as what I do in my off time. I'm not sure where else I may have changed. I'm sure my wife Jamie could expand on that.
Well, that's where we'll go to get the truth.
Absolutely.
I guess we talked a little bit about you grew closer to God. Do you feel like you learned anything new about him?
It has reaffirmed that he is good all the time, even though this happened. Even though the pain and that I went through, he's good all the time.
Yeah.
You know, in the grand scheme of things, this is a blip in my life.
What do you want people to know? You had talked about, when we talked about doing this, you guys have been looking for ways to give God glory for it, and I think that's something that I've learned about through my Parkinson's journey. That I instinctively wanted to do that. I've talked with lots of other people on this show that feel that way. So, tell me a little bit about that. Let's talk a little bit about giving God glory and what that means to you.
And as we were sitting in the hospital, and Jamie, it just kind of one day she just said this, this is going to be a story for his glory. And that's what we've kept on with that and on that. And like I said, this is the first opportunity to do something very public. I mean, we've talked to people, friends, and everything like that to try to encourage through my story. But yeah, it's just that everybody connects in different ways. But we're hoping that my story and the aspects of what happened helps people, because I mean, there's hundreds of motorcycle accidents or car accidents every year where people are injured, severely injured. And hopefully you could connect to some of those people to help them through that trial and know that there is light at the end of that tunnel, staying and leaning on God and getting your strength through him.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, Mike, before we wrap up, is there anything else you want people to know?
Don't be angry because of whatever happened. Don't be angry at God. He didn't cause it to happen. I mean, we don't deserve the blessings we have, but I mean, lean on him and you'll make it through. You'll make it through the trial.
Yeah. Very good. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time, and it's always good to see the strength that you've drawn through him. You're a strong person anyway, but giving him the glory for that and being able to come through this the way that you have with your love for God totally intact is very cool. I think it's going to inspire some people.
That'd be great.
And thank you for listening to Shaken. Would you help make sure others find this podcast? There are several ways you can help. Share Shaken with a friend. Give Shaken a good review and rating. Subscribe to Shaken so you never miss an episode. And you can find more episodes at purposely.com or on your favorite podcast app.